So here we are guys, the Bauer Vapor Flylite skates. Now in this video, I'm going to be looking at all of the major changes of how this skate has changed from the previous generation of the Hyperlite 2s. If you have any questions, any comments, comment down below for the full review, which will be of course on the ice with myself and Tommy. But before that, we're going to be doing a first impressions, letting you know all of the tech and spec and mumbo jumbo that I'm going to go through in this video. That aside, what does it actually feel like to use these skates? What do they feel like on the ice? And of course, what do they feel like compared to all the other skates that are out there that you guys see us in all the time? So let's jump into this video, start at the base, work our way upwards and talk about all of the key changes between these skates and the previous generation. So like always guys, base of the skate working our way upwards. No changes with the blade or the holder. It's still using Bauer's Fly X steel or Bauer's Fly TI steel. And essentially you have to pick between which one of these steels that you want to go for, separate purchase. The holder itself is their Powerfly holder. We saw this on the Shadows and also the Hyperlite 2s. This is that holder that has the stiffer front portion, support bar or stability rod in the middle, however Bauer likes to refer to that. And then the rear portions of the holder are supposed to be softer and more flexible. All of this is geared towards you being more agile on the ice. Now, when we move up into the outsole of these skates, first thing we look at. Now, Hyperlite 2s were a two-piece skate. It had an outsole, it had the boot connected to the outsole, all of that connected to the holder. What they've done here is a little bit different. I've heard it discussed or described as one piece in some content online. I'm not going to say that it's one piece because if we look at the bottom of the skate, you can see the front portions still definitely has an outsole. But when you go to the middle of the outsole area over here, there's nothing there. Same with when you get over to the heel section. So this is what Bauer's referring to as their fusion outsole, because the actual outsole piece that would be in the heel section has now been removed. The back portion of the skate actually connects directly to the holder. Again, this is all geared towards the skate not only being lighter, Flylite skates, but also it aiding your performance in terms of your agility, your step overs, your just ability to be able to maneuver on the ice is meant to be further improved. But more importantly, it's obviously going to have a massive impact on the weight of the skate, because that is quite a large piece of material that when you look at the other manufacturers who have gone with monocoque constructions or one-piece boot frames are removing to really reduce the weight of a skate and also increase its feel on the ice and also its performance. I keep seeing online about how cool and how different the Flylite skates look compared to the previous generation. I don't think they look that different. If anything, I think they just look like the Hyperlite 2s with a bit of white on the back. Let me know if you think that's a bit harsh. Let me know what you think about the new design. From there, moving into the boot or the main body of the skate, we're seeing Bauer's Fusion Curve Composite. Now this is going to be pretty similar to what we saw in the previous generation of skates from the Vapor range, but essentially what we have over here is with their curved composite, the topper sections around here will be stiffer, and as you move lower down the skate, especially around the heel portion of the skate, it gets much softer. Again, this is all to be able to aid you in having the skate flex in the right areas to allow for that really maneuverable or agile player to maximize on the skate's performance, to allow the skates to work with them rather than against them. Now the construction of this skate works hand in hand with Bauer's Fusion Flex lacing system. What we have over here is very similar to what we saw in the Hyperlite 2s, where there are these flex notches or Fusion Flex notches that are in the higher or upper portions of the facing or the skate's lacing system that essentially allowed the body of the boot to be able to flex better as you were kind of getting ready to explode forward, if you were tight turning, quick starts and stops. It also works in unison with the body of the boot to allow the skate's construction to store up and release energy at the right times. So the flexing and unflexing, kind of like the flex in a hockey stick. That's what this skate is doing. It's very subtle, but the changes in the construction of a skate can have a massive impact on the way that it performs on the ice. Now, what they've done to improve the flexibility or the forward flexion you get out of the skates, think about a bit of kind of like recoil. They've added a couple more notches in the lower portions of the eyelet system or the facing system of these skates, just to allow you to really get over the toes of your skates to be able to get the most flexion out of the boot while it's able to store up that energy, and then you release the energy as you kind of complete the stride. We always give credit where credit is due, and this lacing system sounds pretty interesting, and it's going to be cool to see how it feels on the ice versus what we might have experienced with the older generation of Bauer skates. The most obvious thing to move on to next is going to be the tongue on the new Flylite skates. This is the Aerolite 3.0 tongue as opposed to the 2.0, which we saw in the previous generation. What they've done over here is essentially beefed up the tongue, made it towards more like a pro spec, which is more padding, more comfort, but still keeping it dense so it doesn't interfere too heavily with the volume inside the skate. They've also beefed up the high wear areas with some abrasion pads, but unlike some of the other manufacturers that we see, instead of adding almost like synthetic leathers to the high wear areas of the tongue, what they've done is added essentially very dense felt, black felt, to the high wear areas along the sides of the tongue's construction. I suspect this is not only done to really try and step up the durability, but also because it's going to have an impact on the comfort that you get in those kind of edges of the tongue itself. But we'll see how that holds up when we get these skates on the ice. Now, last but not least, on the outside of the skate is going to be the Fusion Connect toe cap. Now, what we have here is a toe cap that is essentially made to be a little bit more anatomical. It's slightly more lower profile, more rounded, reducing kind of like the unwanted space inside the toe cap, while also improving the connection point between the boot and also the toe cap. This kind of reminds me of what we saw or heard in the FT8 Pros and also the XF Pros, where they've kind of tried to create a better connection point where this piece of the boot matches up to this piece of the boot without having too much of an obvious join in the middle that you can feel on the inside of the skate. So also the padding inside there has also been refined, added a little bit additional liners or extended the liners more into the toe cap area of the skate just to provide a bit more comfort and hopefully a bit more warmth, which I love it when skate manufacturers do that. When you have a solid cold plastic toe cap and you're playing pond hockey, this thing turns into a freezer. So having a little bit of padding, a little bit of liners inside there is something that's always welcomed. It's why I love True Skates, because they do the exact same thing. Now from there, taking a look at the tendon of this, it's going to be Bauer's Fly tendon. Everything of this skate either has the word fly or fusion or flex in it. It's kind of funny. But moving on to the tendon, I'll try not to get too distracted. What we have with their new Fly tendon is essentially a completely stripped back tendon. What we saw in the Hyperlite 2s, it was thin, but it had a liner, it had padding. This has none of that. It's completely stripped down and you just see the polymer or the plastic that the tendon is constructed with. Now again, I think that's going to be towards Flylite skate, reducing weight wherever they possibly can. At the end of the day, you've got socks in that area over there, so I don't know how much of that you're going to feel, but it'll be interesting to see that on the ice. This tendon now really resembles, in terms of its aesthetical appearance, as what we saw on the shadow skates, which is that stripped back tendon, you know, minimal material applied to it, no material on this whatsoever. So it kind of reminds me on the tendon that you get on the shadow skates, very minimal, very stripped back. But of course, the shape of it isn't anywhere near as aggressively forward pitched as what we see on the shadow skates, but going to be interesting to give you some feedback about what that's like. Now, of course, moving from there, we're going to look at inside the skate, what's going on with the liners. Essentially, there's no major upgrades there. Essentially, these liners are the Aerofoam with the LockFit Pro liner. There's essentially no major changes going on here. The color scheme has been switched up a little bit inside these boots, but it's the same sort of dense, thin padding that you expect in a vapor skate. There's other skates out there that are more padded, but this has a very traditional feel. There's nothing that's going to feel irregular to what you would have experienced in the Hyperlite 2s. So these are all of the major changes that we see with the brand new Flylite skates versus what we saw with the previous generation, the Hyperlites. Of course, comment down below with what you want us to VS this skate against, and make sure that you ask any questions that you want us to answer in the first impressions when we get these on the ice, and of course the full review, which will come a few months later. But if you enjoyed this video, as always, make sure you thumbs up and also subscribe, and take care till the next one. And of course, if you want to pick up any of our merch, including the custom HT jerseys and some of the stuff that I've got on now, all of the links will be down below in the video description. But take care, guys, and I'll catch you in the next one.